Welcome back to day 2 of the 53rd annual AKSNA conference. Today we have, put up my agenda here. There's a couple of changes though, so the food share pilot is getting changed to serving donated meat in school meals. So that's the only change, but that's today's agenda. So Sandy, do you want to say a few words before we go as the president-elect of AKSNA? Or
Let's see.
Did I put you on the spot?
No, I was planning on it, but then I forgot. No, I just want to welcome everybody back, and I think we've got an exciting couple of days of stuff for everybody, and I'm excited.
Yes, me too. So we're going to start out with a door prize, and hopefully it will work better than yesterday. Today, the first door prize is a $25 Visa card donated by Schwann's. So let me get my little spinner up here. And it was number 59, who is Jenna Berkey from Tananochi Conference. Is she here? If you could unmute yourself. Let me see. I don't see her on the list. Okay. So let's try it again here. 76. Teresa Wilson. Are you there, Teresa?
Yes, I am.
Oh, all right. So you got the $25 gift certificate. Ones, yeah. Cool. Okay.
Okay, what did I win?
You didn't win anything, Missy.
Just, come on, Sue. Really?
Good try. Good try. Okay. Anchorage School District wiped me out yesterday, so
I know, we're done.
It was 3 out of 3.
That's right. Wow.
Or 2 out of 3, sorry. Well, it was 3 out of 3, but I drew the same person twice, so that didn't work. Okay, so our first presenter today is Trevor Bridgewater. He is our member services chair and soon to be president-elect. So if Trevor wants to go ahead and start and go ahead and do your screen, you should be able to take over.
Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome, Trevor.
Welcome, everybody. I am presenting a topic today that I kind of came up with myself. It's not something that I saw on other SNA sites. It's something that I kind of noticed as I started with school nutrition and wanted to try to offer something that could possibly help newcomers to our industry, because we speak another language than people outside of school nutrition. It involves a lot of jargon, a lot of industry speak that people don't really have familiarity to unless they're really in the weeds like a lot of us are. And I have been a member of AKSNA since 2016. I've been coming to the state conference since January 2017. And one thing I noticed as a program director at the time of a small district, rural district, you wear a lot of hats. So you're dealing with the state agency for every type of program that you are. You don't have that delegated out to anyone else. So you're having to be really knowledgeable about all the speak that USDA uses. And there's times in the memos and in the trainings that I would get overwhelmed in the acronyms used in trying to keep track of everything. It was frankly overwhelming and kind of turns you off if you're not ready for that. You get lost in it. It's big alphabet soup a lot of times. So after noticing that last year, we had talked about having this as a quick kind of as for new member get-togethers, just kind of do a quick piece on all the acronyms in school nutrition, because as I started going through it, I realized there's pages and pages of these things that come up in your monthly bulletins from the state agency or from USDA that you're having to go back and remind yourself, am I part of FDIR or did I actually do something with TANF? I can't remember. But that was something that kind of led me to this story that I wanted to share with you, and it might help you kind of relate to the world that we're in, that a lot of people outside of school nutrition don't get to see, that we have to keep track of. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen now and play my PowerPoint. And long time ago in a district far away, we had something called the AR Menace. A lot of you are familiar with the AR Menace. The SFA was gearing up for the dreaded AR. Hours of preparation were spent, and we are ensuring that the files were triple checked to make sure employee training was properly recorded and current previous SYs. DC reports helped identify participants in SBP and SLP, as well as the unexpected transition to the SFSP for the pandemic. Other reports were made available were the SFA VCR and the PLE. Menus were analyzed to prevent any CA possibly having the SFA incur any FA. DSAT was used on the SY menu to ensure we met USDA regulations and dietary requirements. I'm PowerPoint challenged, you'll have to bear with me. Inspection certificates from DEC had to be compiled. All our MSDS and HACCP bindings were updated, and all changes to our LWP had to be reviewed, and programs including FFEP and ASP were included. All schools designated as CEP would be reviewed at this time as well. Information about families that are approved through FRE applications could and how they could access other programs such as SNAP were made available. And in the end, the SFA was successfully crushing the AR Menace with the help of proper planning and applicable training, and made available through their allies at SNA, ICN, and SA. I just wanted to give you an example of the ton of acronyms that we have that we're having to deal with when we are writing memos, communicating to families, adhering to USDA regulations, and just wanted to, one, let anyone know that as they're starting out in school nutrition, that there's plenty of help out there for people to get the better understanding of what we're having to work with. As you can see, I've highlighted the different acronyms, and then coming up here, I've got the definitions of each one. And it didn't even cover all of the definitions, all the acronyms that we work on. We're adding new ones all the time, like PEBT, specifically for pandemic, electronic. I don't even know what the B stands for, actually. But it's a lot, you guys, and they're always adding more. There's things like the LWP, which is your local wellness policy, that is usually something that people meet with you on a quarterly basis at your district to update, but it's part of, I believe, your your application each year, or it's definitely part of your administrative review, which is that MINUS, the AR that you will undoubtedly, if you haven't already experienced it, you will. But like I said, the state agency, SA, does an incredible job with their annual trainings each year. Advisors that, I don't know if they're advisors or just simply auditors, Robin, they do a great job of helping you navigate your AR so that you're not getting any kind of CAs or corrective actions, and if you are, how to keep it from being fiscal actions that really impact your programs. There's probably people on here that are part of RCCIs, and all your schools have to have kitchen inspections from the DEC, which is our State Department of Environmental Conservation. Every one of us is an SFA if you are a school food authority and operating into these programs. And we're all operating under the umbrella of the regulations that the USDA, our United States Department of Agriculture, is set for us to adhere to so that we can get our reimbursements. Some more of those include like your FRE, your free and reduced eligibility reports that are pulled to give you percentages of your free and reduced students at your schools. Specialty programs, grant programs that I'm very proud to be a part of is like our FFVP program, Fresh Fruit and Vegetable program, that this week we sent out rambutans. I don't have any with me, but they are one of the wildest looking fruits you will ever see if you're not familiar with them. But it's a great opportunity, and being able to offer programs like FFVP, you have to understand the lingo that Sue and others at the state agency are training you on in order to be able to be successful with it. And what I'd just like you all to know is that you're not alone in this. We are a big state, but we're all going through the same processes each year, and don't hesitate to reach out to another district or other program operators in order to find out about the PLE that is asked on your applications each year. And if you've got a CAR, what kind of mitigations you need to correct that action that has been noted on your AR. I've been through trainings with ICN, the Institute of Child Nutrition, as well as SNA at ANC, which is our annual national conference, to really, one, to get the knowledge that other districts are willing to share with you, but also make those connections with people so that as you've got something coming up like an AR, you're able to be as prepared as possible so that you represent your district well. And it makes it easier on the SA, on the state agency, as well as on anybody in your district, whether it's the purchasing agent due to procurement guidelines that you're having to follow, or anybody in particular. So I just wanted to share that with you. It was something that I've noticed over the years that really surprised me at how much information, especially smaller districts, have to be aware of with the less staff. And just to let you know that we're all kind of going through the same things, and reach out to us. So I believe that's shorter than my time. If anybody has any questions about certain acronyms, we've got all the knowledgeable agencies on here as well to answer anything that you might need. But I just wanted to share something with you today as my personal experience with AKSNA and child nutrition. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Trevor. Stephanie English wants to know if there is a place that has all the acronyms listed, like it may be at the state agency level. Is there somewhere where she can find that?
At the in the admin handbook, the annual handbook that we're sending out each year to the districts, I think in the front cover, there's a list of acronyms.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm still learning the acronyms. I've been here for 11 years, 12 years.
My suggestion would be a Star Wars theme in the future for the handbook in order.
There you go. All right, good job. Does anybody have any questions for Trevor? You can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
I did want to tell Trevor that the PEBT was the Pandemic Electronic Benefits Transfer.
Oh,
Bank transfer benefits, I couldn't find it for my list.
yes, and it's not food stamps anymore, it's SNAP.
SNAP.
So that's always, and that's an acronym for something.
Supplemental Nutrition.
Something program.
Assistance program.
Assistance program, yes.
Assistance program.
Usually assistance is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, good job, Trevor.
Thank you.
All right. Yay. We can do our little applause on our reaction. All right. Well, we did. You got 10 minutes early, Trevor. All right. So next up, I don't know if they're on. Sharon Pagan from American Fast Freight is going to do a presentation on the drop point delivery system. That American Fast Freight is our current contracted freight forwarder for the USDA direct foods. We have a different freight forwarder for the processed foods, but there's always questions about transportation, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to let them kind of explain the process, and then if you have.
We are here. I actually have Lily Artilles on with me. She's going to be doing the PowerPoint part of it so that we don't have any technological problems.
Great.
But thank you for having us. My name is Sharon Pagan. I am the Vice President of National Accounts and Business Development at American Fast Freight, and Lily works in sales admin. I've been with AFF, as we call it, for about 18 years. So I'm very familiar with Alaska. I lived in Fairbanks for 4 years and 2.5 years in Anchorage while my husband was in the military. So I know the territory. Alaska will always be near and dear to my heart. So what Sue had asked is to put together a presentation that basically tells you who we are, but also some of the challenges that are faced with shipping to Alaska. So our company is known as American Fast Freight. We are a division of Odyssey Logistics and Technology. And our concept is door to done. Next slide, Lily. We are one of the largest freight forwarders servicing the Alaska market. We have terminals in Anchorage, Fairbanks, Kenai, Soldotna. We're Fife, Washington. We have 2 terminals in California, New Jersey, Chicago, and Florida. What our company does is ship to all of the domestic offshore markets, better known as the Jones Act territories. We do LTL, full loads, freeze, dry, vans, flats. We are primarily steamship provider. We do project logistics. We're very, very familiar with the needs to ship to Alaska and be successful. Some of the challenges, as you all know, that you face in the Alaska market is the weather. Right now, I mean, some of you, when we jumped on for the practice, we were listening, and I had heard one of the ladies had said that freight was late this week, and that's because the Alaska vessels have been very delayed the last couple of weeks because of storms on the way up to Anchorage. The other problem you have a lot of remote locations that have no road access. And then you are also limited to 2 sailings per week. They leave Tacoma, Washington on Wednesday and Friday nights, and it's 4 days on the water year round. And there's 2 vessels that service that market. They both depart at the same time. So again, this is the schedule. Leaves Tacoma, Anchorage, 4 days. We offer 4 days into Soldotna and 4 days into Fairbanks. And we don't do any southbound for you guys, so that really wouldn't pertain. So typically what we do right now, we receive freight in for we receive freight in every day. We use both sailings. So anything that's going into Central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, or any of the bush communities leaves Fife on either Wednesday or Friday night, goes into Anchorage, and then we break out for a beyond point from there. Any of the Southeast, the Juneau, Ketchikan, I believe it's Juneau, Ketchikan, and Sitka, those all go out on barge, which departs on Friday and goes directly to all those Southeast points. Like I said, we have experience in all the unique markets. We operate all food grade facilities. We have a state-of-the-art IT system. We're asset-based in Alaska. So if we're doing any of your deliveries, those are with all our trucks, if it's in the Anchorage Bowl or down on the Kenai Peninsula, or even in any of the communities around the Fairbanks area. Typically, the ideal shipment comes in palletized or crated, secured to the pallet, heaviest on the bottom, no overhang, because what happens is we load them in either 40 or 45-foot equipment. They are moved around quite a bit, as you can imagine, out on the ocean. And so we have to pack the containers as tight as we can. So that means the product, we have to double stack, fill every nook and cranny we can. For temperature control, which we do freeze and chill for you, like I said, all of our
We lost you.
Well, I think we lost you, Sharon. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a hold of her back.
Okay.
Just bear with us.
We will pause for a brief intermission.
Where's the music man? Come on, James.
Diane's working me way too hard today.
Come on, James. You need to get some Bruno Mars on there.
Let me see what I can find. I gotta be careful though, because I share a playlist with my son, and he has shocked me more than once.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry. You can't shock me.
Are we going to get an apron dance, Michelle?
No. That's only for select times of the year.
Okay, guys, looks like she's having a little bit of situation with her phone. So I'll go ahead and continue.
Okay.
I'll see where she left off. We are HACCP certified with our employees in the warehouses. And then regarding temp verification at every touch point through the final destination. So anytime your freight gets touched, there is a verification for temperature as well. There's also the FSMA compliant and then AIB approved as well. Regarding the commodity and the acceptable temperatures for chilled and refrigerated fresh goods, we usually like to keep it between the 30 to 41 Fahrenheit range. For frozen, it'll be between the 0 to -15. And then ice cream, -15, and I have seen some where they request -20 as well. Just depends on the customer and the product. And then just looking at the global transportation across, we do the small parcel, the rail, intermodal, your regular bulk, flatbed, air, LTL, truckload. We also do the tanks. And then, as you know, the LCL ocean container, full containers, and everything else that comes with the job.
Sorry, I got bumped out. So this is a picture of our Fife, Washington facility. So we're on 21 acres. We have 90 doors and a 92,000 square foot warehouse. And this is where everything begins for what we do for the state of Alaska. So like I had said earlier, we receive freight 5 days a week. It could be from various vendors, and Autumn Arnett will get instructions from either Tony or Sue on what's going where. We would ship all of everything except the southeast goes into Anchorage. Fairbanks area goes direct into Fairbanks. Kenai, Soldotna goes there. This is a picture of our Anchorage facility. And so a little bit, just so that you have a better idea, we're talking about challenges. So like I said, that everybody is delivering in the Anchorage Bowl, we call the rail belt, is delivered on our trucks, our people. All of the remote communities, we use the bypass mail. So we sort everything based on where it's going. As you know, that there are some drop points we do for some areas that we may get something, say, to Nome, and then the school district picks it up from there. So we're using bypass for the majority of your freight. However, sometimes we'll receive notification that we need to ship air, and then we would bring it to like a Northern Air Cargo, and then it might get to Barrow and transload it on a smaller plane, and then get to a smaller plane to the final destination. So there is definitely a lot of challenges in Alaska that you wouldn't see in other areas. And but it's, I think by being experienced is how we're able to offer such a good program to the school district. And we really love working with you guys. And so I don't know how to see if there's, down in the chat would be where questions are, I guess.
Yeah, there's one. It says, how do you assure that the freight is not temp abused out to the bush?
I mean, you mean keeping it from like freezing, or the refrigerated temp?
I don't know, Susan, do you want to unmute yourself? And
yes, I mean, it not sitting on a runway getting warm or freezing, but she said that they send it bypass mail. So once they drop it at the mail, who knows what happens when it gets to the bush, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. You do lose control of it at some point. So our hope is that the people that, like when we bring to the post office for your bypass, that they're, especially right now, is where you would run into your bigger problems with keeping things not keep it from freezing, or keeping your chilled and your cold, but everything has to be clearly labeled. So it should be shipping true to temp. If there is ever an issue, then please let Sue know, who could communicate to us, and we would definitely get on it. I don't think the challenges are as much on the planes because they don't leave the stuff out on the runways. Maybe at the bush communities that they have no delivery, you have to go pick up yourself. But in Anchorage, I know when they're crossing to the planes, those are coming right out of the hangars and getting loaded on.
Sharon, can you elaborate on bypass mail for folks who are not familiar with it?
So bypass mail is unique to Alaska. So my understanding, it was originally set up because there's so many communities that do not have access to like grocery stores and things like that. And the cost of getting goods to those areas would be astronomical. So the post office actually supplements the cost of shipping to a lot of these locations. And that's where it's called bypass mail, because if maybe I was just going to go to the post office and mail something, I don't know, to Mountain Village or someplace like that, it would be a big fee assigned to it, where the post, it's for all of the service goods that you need for daily living. And they actually, like I said, supplement the cost of mailing packages. And Alaska is the only market that I'm aware of that they have that program.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. We have a question from Shane Lamar. What about notifying us when it is dropped off? I know we have contractually things in place, but maybe you can
You mean
explain.
dropped off at the airport or?
Well, he's from Southwest region, so I am assuming he means the bypass mail.
So we,
Shane,
to send notifications out to the individual schools that your freight is actually leaving, or?
I know we do that. Autumn gives us a bypass mail report, and then we send that on to the school district.
That's what I
So,
thought Autumn was
yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. So you should be receiving some kind of information, Shane, but the issue I see is that once it's dropped off at the post office or wherever you go to send to bypass mail, it can sit there for amount of time before it's shipped off. So we send a notification when American Fast Freight drops off your order at the freight. It's not a freight forwarder, but the bypass mail. So if it sits there for a couple of days, then I think that's where the issues come into play. And that is something that I don't think we can really control.
Well, because I think they don't go to they don't ship out to every location every day.
Right.
So it's kind of like a hit or miss. We could get there today and they're going to, 5 of the 20 locations, but we could have missed it from, the other 5 the day before. So,
right. Yeah. So there's no, it's not like you're getting a phone call from the driver saying, I'm going to be there in, 24 hours. Bypass mail doesn't work that way. But it's so less. I mean, I don't even know what the price is now. I used to know, but I think it's around $38 per 1,000 pounds, I think. I could be wrong. Versus air, which is sometimes $200 or more for 1,000 pounds. So
exactly. And what we do in Anchorage is we do consolidations for you to try to get you to that 1,000 pound level so that you get the cheaper cost.
Right.
And then sometimes there's an emergency and either yourself or Tony would let Autumn know that we need to kick something over to the air freight option, which is obviously a lot more money, but if you need it tomorrow, you can possibly get it tomorrow.
And some of the smaller districts don't have that 1,000 pound minimum. They're like 800 pounds and we just can't hold it any longer. So we ship it air. And if you have to pay, USDA only pays up to 13 prepaid drop points. So it's expensive. So we try to not use air freight. We try to always use bypass just to save money.
Right.
Okay, we have a question. Oh, we have a comment. Barbara said she's in, where are you, Barbara? I know she's in the Iditarod School District. McGrath, this is 46 cents a pound, she said. For bypass mail, I assume. So that's quite a savings compared to air freight.
Right.
Okay. Is there any more questions? I don't see anybody's hands raised or any more. No? All right.
Well, we're keeping you ahead of schedule, and thank you again for allowing Lily and I to be part of this. And if you ever have any questions or anything about it, Sue has my email address. I'm always available, email or phone.
All right. Well, thank you, Sharon and Lily. I appreciate you taking the time out to
No,
come
thank
and
you.
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so another door prize time. This time, it's a case of Alaska chips. The Alaska brand chips. You'll get a whole case of them. My grandkids would love that. So, let me get my little handy dandy spinner.
Jennifer, I'll arm wrestle you for it.
18. Noni. Is Noni online from the Kenai Peninsula?
I'm here.
Woohoo!
Can
Okay,
you hear
Noni.
me?
Yay.
You won some chips.
Yay, Noni.
Yes, my kids will love it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Well, we're way ahead of schedule. I might have to figure out something to do here. Okay, next up is Sandy Ponte and Beth Seitz. They're going to talk about serving donated meat in school meals.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
And since I'm facilitating with Sandy, I know she had another person too that had some info, but I wanted to start off with what the requirements are to accept game meats in this National School Lunch programs. Essentially, and we promote, local meats, local foods, fish, game meats. In our programs, we find that to be very beneficial for not only the lunch program, but just keeping up with the eating habits of the children that live in that community. The requirements under the DEC's code does require, there is a form that they do have on their website, and I believe Sandy has a little PowerPoint or something that she'll show, and she'll have the link to that for the donated game meats form. And it goes through who you received the meat from, the date, the time that it was, the game was harvested, things you want to look for when you receive meats. Those game meats can be received in the whole or round quarters or round roasts. They can't be cut down any further than that. That would be once you receive the meat, you would process it down further to your specifications that you need for your recipes. You want to make sure that it's clean, it was packaged or cut properly. You're not seeing any insects or rodent signs. You want to make sure that it doesn't have a foul odor. And if you're receiving fish, you want to make sure that that fish is either in the whole, it's in the whole and gilled and gutted, and but no further process from that point. And the form is actually very easy to fill out, and it's basically your receipt of from that person that's donating. I know there are programs that do, like if a deer or a moose get hit, they'll donate a moose or deer to the school for the program. And so officers or troopers will, or even fish and game representatives will bring those to the districts. But Sandy, would you like to talk about what your process is in your school when you receive meats or fish?
There you go. You got it.
Yay!
Yay!
Sorry about that.
Hey, no problem.
Okay, well, what we do in our school district is we work through the Fishermen's Union, and the local fishermen will donate part of their catch The union will get a hold of the fishermen for probably usually a couple openers back to back so that we get enough fish. And when the fishermen deliver either to the tender or to the cannery, they just tell them how many fish they'd like to donate to the school. And then the cannery takes it from there and they process it for us. So they'll bone it, vacuum seal it, and freeze it for us, which makes it very nice and handy. We usually get between 800 and 1,600 pounds a year of the fresh salmon. Sometimes we get nice king salmon. Sometimes it's usually Copper River Reds, which are wonderful. But we have been spoiled a couple of times and had fresh king salmon. Yum. We usually serve it once or twice a month. If I've got the full 1,600 pounds, we'll do it at least twice a month. Every other week, we'll do salmon. We like to, whoops, wrong way. We like to have a luncheon for the fishermen, the cannery heads, Fish and Game. They'll all come in and have lunch with the kids one day during the school year, and they'll explain all their roles, what's involved with getting the fish to them, the life cycle of the fish. They even have a tank where they grow from eggs. They'll hatch salmon and release them once a year. So they really understand the whole life cycle of the salmon. And as you can guess, that's always our biggest adult day is when we have salmon on the menu. This year was the first year that we've gotten moose. One of my cooks, their family is avid hunters and donated a portion of a moose, and the local grocery store ground it up for us. So we were able to have enough moose burger for one meal for all the kids. And they loved it. We're trying to work out where we can have more donated. Haven't had much luck on getting a proxy for the school for another hunter to go out and get one for us. But I'm working right now with the guides, hunting guides, because a lot of the hunters that come up from down in the lower 48, they want their trophies. They don't want to mess with the meat. So if we can find reliable guides that'll handle the meat well and donate it to us, we're hoping that might be an outlet. Any questions at all on any of that?
Yeah, Sandy, we had one question from Trevor. How did the opportunity to accept meats in school meal programs first get started?
Well, the Fish to School was a joint project with me and our local public health nurse at the time. We were able to get with the Fishermen's Union and get that set up just to try to get some healthier, more Alaskan proteins into our kids. The moose has actually been pretty much my cook's idea. I mean, she's, like I said, her family is avid hunters and she's been real gung-ho on this. So she's been the one to really spearhead this.
So how often do you get the donated meat? Is it just one a year, or does it just depends?
Yeah, it's once a year we'll get the fish. A lot of times the cannery, if we don't have enough room in the freezer for all of it, they'll hold on to it until the end of the season. But when they shut down, they shut their freezers down. So we have to make room for it. Okay. As far as the moose goes, this is the first time we've done that. So that hasn't been an issue.
Cool. There's one question from Barbara from Iditarod. Is there anyone who has processed moose in the school kitchen?
Not as yet. If we do start getting donated meat, I am planning on buying a grinder for the kitchen. And any like stew meats and stuff, we'll just do ourselves. You know, we can cut steaks down and, you know, we can cut the roast down and stuff, and I do have a couple of butcher friends that can always come in and help me butcher.
That's good.
Sue, just to let you know too, I'm aware that Haynes had done a moose. They actually had students with a teacher teaching them how to butcher down a moose, and they used that in the program. And so the students got to learn how to butcher a moose, how to cut it down into, you know, stew meats. And I'm not 100% certain if they got to do a grinder to make hamburger, but I know for sure they did steaks and stew meat, and they had some excellent recipes, made excellent recipes out of that. I got to have some of their beef moose stew when I was there on review. It was quite tasty.
Bummer.
Oh, all right. We have another question from Trevor. Did the state have to pass legislation to make it possible for schools to accept wild game? I don't think so.
Yeah, actually, I'm not. It's a DEC, like DEC allows it. It's just a matter of making sure that you're using the right forms to accept the meat and to fill that out and have that on file for either DEC's review, or when we're on review, we might ask those questions to see what paperwork you've got on file. As far as legislation goes, I am not 100% certain that any legislation had to be done. I do know, though, that in most recent years, there was that Fish to School program promoting getting, you know, commercial fishermen to help donate, like what Sandy's talking about on getting commercial fishermen to donate some of their catch to the schools. Sitka has a great Fish to School program as well. But it has to, Fish and Game came, had contacted, or I think it was Joe had contacted them in regards to something, and they were pretty adamant that Fish to School had to go through a commercial fisherman, commercial processor kind of a situation, that schools shouldn't be accepting just fish from any person off the dock fishing. But Joe might be able to elaborate a little more on that at another time.
Okay. There's another.
I saw that question in regards to the local cookbook, cooking it, we have copies of that, and we can definitely send you out one. I will let Debbie know that you are interested. I know there should be a couple of them actually, Shane, out at Southwest Region for sure, but who knows, maybe Walter snagged it for himself. It's a good cookbook.
Shane also asked, does it need to be processed by a school or a processor? So
we processed our own in-house in Haynes.
Okay.
Bob.
So it can be both.
Hey.
As long as it's a certified kitchen.
Right. Okay.
There's no pressure.
Is there a problem with being reimbursed for this game meat that cannot be sold?
Well, if you're using it in your program, it would just be part of your, like, that would be your meat component for that day's menu, and you would
not have any
reimbursed for that meal so long as you got all your other components for the reimbursable meal.
Okay.
Okay.
And then how do you get on the list for confiscated moose, deer, elk, etc.? And do you need a HACCP plan or variance?
Yes.
You would need a HACCP. Your HACCP plan should include So if
I
your
thought.
HACCP plan is old and
Sounds good, Julie.
prior to accepting game meats and things, you're going to want to make sure that you update your HACCP plan to include the
No fracture. Just
acceptance of
good
game meats,
size baby
how you
spur.
process through those game meats, so that you're making sure that you're meeting the DEC's codes and requirements. But there was another part to that question, Sue. What was that?
I just wanted to make sure everybody mutes their phone. There's several people that are unmuted and talking. So if you're not talking, can you mute your phones, please? Do you need a HACCP plan or variance?
You would need a HACCP plan.
Yeah. And then Shane Lamar wants to know if there's any required paperwork.
Well, the right on the helpful links here there's the second one for resources, traditional foods donated for game meat receipt. That is the DEC's form that should be utilized when you're accepting a game meats from folks to complete and have on file.
Okay. Let me see. Can they be accepted from a fish will already processed?
Fish needs to be whole and gilled and gutted. So if it's further processed down, then you can't. It needs to be accepted in the whole head, tail, just gilled and gutted.
Okay.
Unless it's coming from a commercial processor, like what Sandy gets from her commercial cannery, that they're licensed and to be able to process down that further, usually in a fillet style.
Okay. Can we use locally sourced eggs?
Eggs in the school lunch program, that's touchy. DEC really feels that school children tend to be at have a high risk factor. So I know they like to have the eggs pasteurized to be served in school meals, as well as like daycares and pioneer homes and things. So I wouldn't go there for the school meal program. I would stay with the egg, what are those? Sandy, you might be able to answer that better for me. The pasteurized eggs that's already like in a bag and
in a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, gallon jug type thing. Yeah.
And stick with that as opposed to using fresh eggs from a person who's got chickens in their backyard.
I see Lisa on. Do you want to talk about your experience in Haines, Lisa? If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to share my screen.
All right.
Okay. There we go.
There you go.
So my opening slide is my hunky husband and
wow.
and the trooper. And so this is how the moose came to us. I was at the post office and on my way home, and the trooper called me and he said, "Can you take a moose?" And I said, "Well, let me go home and get my husband." So I went home and changed my clothes, and my husband dropped everything and jumped in the rig with me, and we came down and met the trooper. And this meat was beautiful. It was taken, the hunter took very nice care of it. It was a sublegal bull, and so it was taken from the hunter, unfortunately. Here we are unloading the meat. This is our superintendent, Dr. Getchell, and helping us unload the meat. and my husband, myself, and the trooper. And this was the beautiful backstrap piece right here. And as you can see, I don't know if people are familiar with game meat or not, but game meat, when it's hung properly, will have this coating on it, and that protects the inside meat. It creates the it's a shell, it's a hard shell, and that's good for it to look like that. That's not mold. And so this meat was quite well seasoned. But as Beth pointed out, this meat needs to not be broken down in further than in the round. And so when we received this, we took it into, we were serving that next day, we were serving food, of course. And so what we did is we had 2 teachers supervise. Here's all this beautiful meat. And we had Mr. Fontenot and Mr. Van Wy, who was raised on a organic pork farm in the Mat-Su Valley. And they oversaw the butchering of all this meat. And so here's one of our students. Actually, he's one of our star athletes. And so what they're doing is they're removing the silver skin and the hard areas from the meat and breaking it down and putting it into Lexons so that we could turn it into burger and stew meat after hours, after we were no longer serving student meals. So all of this work was done in the home ec kitchen. So we didn't cross-contaminate with any meat product with our already processed school food. Here's Mr. Van Wy breaking the fat down off of one of those beautiful legs. And here is the finished product. So this is how it came to us in these Lexons. We had 250 pounds of pure meat, very little fat, no silver skin. And what we did was we brought it over to the grocery store, and they ground it for us because I didn't have any fat available. And I tried to purchase fat locally to make our own grind, and it just wasn't available. And so we took it to the grocery store, and they ground it for us. And then the stuff that we didn't grind, we turned into stew meat. And so then we sectioned off a part of our freezer to store our donated game meat. And so in one little section we have our moose meat, and we've been rationing it so that we have enough to last out the school year. So we're only doing 1 meal a month, and it's either nachos or stew, or we do chili. The kids absolutely go crazy for the chili and the spaghetti. One of the real huge benefits for me in my mind is the community buy-in. People absolutely love the fact that we're using donated meat and a very healthy lean meat in the school food program. Also, this year is different because there's no adults in the building except us staff. But in past years, when we've served moose meat or local fish, we have parents in like nobody's business. We have the whole school, every group has got, well, not high school, but all the younger kids have got their parents sitting with them eating local meals. And so it's a really great way to promote community involvement in the school. And so I do have the form here. I'm not sure how to stop sharing my screen. Let's see.
At the top, you should be able to stop it.
Stop. Okay. Stop share. I see it. Okay. So here is the form that I filled out, and Trooper, so that's a two-part form, and Trooper Nimi, all he did, I filled out all the paperwork because I wanted it to be right. And then I got his signature. And so that's the form that I got off the DEC website. And it's very simple. As long as the meat is in good shape, I think everybody should try to do that. So does anybody have any questions for me? I'm gonna mute and listen.
Lisa, I have a question. This is Barb Deerdorf in McGrath.
Hi, Barb.
Hi, I'm wondering if we don't have another kitchen in the school, is it possible maybe to do the processing on a weekend and then do a real good clean of the school kitchen?
Absolutely. And we have done that in the past. In the old school, before we moved over here, we did not have a separate kitchen. And that's exactly what we did. We came in on the weekends and early morning, evening, and took care of the meat that way, and then just sanitized everything very thoroughly.
Hi, Lisa. I was
Hi,
wondering,
Trevor.
could you estimate how many meals or how many pounds of meat you got off of that donated moose?
That's a funny question that you ask, because the newspaper asked me that. And what I told him was that it takes about 40 pounds of meat to feed our population. And I said, properly planned, we have enough meat to feed our students for the rest of the school year. And so when he printed it in the newspaper, he said, we have enough meat for the rest of the school year. And everybody said, that must have been the biggest moose that ever walked. It was like a Tyrannosaurus. So what we've done is we planned the menu so that it was, by the time it came back from the processor with the added fat, enough to serve our 200 population for one meal each month of the school year. So that's how we planned it.
Okay, we have one question in the chat from, let's see. So if we do not usually process raw meat, do we have to fill out special DEC paperwork for temporary raw meat processing?
Ooh, I don't think that's me. I think that's Beth.
Yeah, it's a Beth or Joe question.
Are you speaking of just like store-bought meats, or meats that like
it was Diane Russo from
not Sue.
Meaning game meat. If we don't normally process raw meat and we're given raw meat to like game meat and it's donated, do we have to fill out DEC approval?
Well, the receipt form on how you receive the donated meat.
That is DEC. Okay.
That's the DEC's form. Yeah.
I did not realize. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I think James I think he's from where, I don't know where he's, Ivanov, just wants to get in touch with local hunters. So he'll have a story like that someday. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
thanks everybody.
Should be able to get like caribou, possibly.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, plenty of caribou up here. I don't think it would be that hard,
Yeah, that would be great.
that would be awesome.
That would be great. Can I put my order in for some sausage right now? Just saying, just in case he's going to take some orders. I don't know.
Oh. All right.
Also,
Any
we're
more-
looking into the egg question a little bit further. So
Okay.
we might have an update on that in a bit.
Great.
I don't know if Carly got on or not, but she was going to try.
Oh, okay. Carly, are you on from Petersburg? Let me see. I don't see her listed.
That's too bad. I know that
Yeah.
I know that she actually received like moose that had been hit by a car.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a whole different ball game because
Yeah,
you
that-
have to dress it and everything.
Yeah, I believe a trooper, brought it to her.
So let's say you got something like that. You would have to hang it in the school a certain amount of time to let it cure, wouldn't you? I mean,
Right.
don't you usually have to hang it for a few days?
Well, I know, honestly, it's been a while since I've had to deal with a moose, but with deer, once it's been shot, we hang it, you skin it, and then you let it sit for a day, sometimes two. I think it depends more or less on the conditions, because the colder it is outside, the better it is. When it's warm, you want to process it faster.
James,
I think Petersburg put it in to coastal cold storage. They have a bunch of different cold storages around town that they could utilize for their moose. But
nice.
Yeah, you want it to be colder. So some grocery stores will let you hang it in the back. And
oh yeah, that's what Lisa said. James, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I've done a couple of these when I used to teach culinary at Career Tech. We would get them from the local Matsu Moose Federation. And one day hanging is probably enough. You just want it to stiffen up a little bit so that it makes it easier to cut and process. You don't have to. It's different than in deer and stuff. I've seen people hang it for as long as 10 days, and that gets that outer crust, and it kind of gets that gamey taste to it. So if you get one, I wouldn't hang it more than a day or chill it down more than a day.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, this was very, very interesting. I'm amazed at what you did, Lisa and Sandy. Man, that's just awesome. Awesome. And there's nothing better than moose stew, I must say. It's pretty tasty.
Yeah, it's very good.
Right. Well, Sandy, do you have anything that you wanted to end with, or Lisa?
No, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to say.
All right. How about you, Lisa?
No, I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I actually read a thing. I guess I will say one thing. I read a thing about a Wisconsin school district that received some game meat and didn't take very good care of it. And they created sausage out of it. They were trying to find some stuff to do with their students. They created sausage out of it, and the students ate the sausage and did not feel very well afterwards. I don't think anybody became violently ill or anything, but it didn't taste good. And I think that's such a shame. I think if you don't have the right facility and if you're not in it or the time, just don't take it on, because if it's going to turn somebody off on it for the rest of their life, maybe then we've lost instead of gained. So I would say if it's a perfect situation, go for it. Otherwise, take a pass.
Yeah.
Going to add, if I may, I've dealt with this some in senior care, which I assume is following the same regulations. You do assume some liability if you don't run it through a processor. So I would absolutely be confident in where that donation is coming from, because my idea of taking care of that moose might be completely different than someone else's before it gets to you. It doesn't come to you alive. So you really do got to trust that source as far as being okay. I always ran it through a processor. I gave it to them to process that, gave them the inspection, and I had zero liability in it. So
yeah, that's a good point. All right. Well, this was a very, very informational session. I really appreciate it. Thanks for Sandy and Lisa and everybody else who gave their thoughts. All right. Moving along, we have Beth Seitz up. She's going to do a school meals update.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Okay. So originally, my original session back when, I don't know, almost a year ago when we were talking about this was going to be roughly in regards to the new meal pattern or the meal pattern. However, that changed. So we're going to go with just the updates on the school meals as far as like the waivers and some of the school's options. Why do these federal nutrition programs exist? Well, obviously to feed the most most in need, to keep your children's health through the food we offer every day, and to teach your children how to maintain a lifelong, healthy diet. So some of the waivers that I wanted to talk about, and I know a lot of folks have been through my roundtables and have seen these waivers or are familiar with these waivers, but there's a number of folks on that are not on my roundtables. So for the National School Lunch, School Breakfast Program waivers that were initiated, those covered the non-congregate feeding. So to a waiver to allow for a non-congregate feeding, the parent and guardian pickup of meals, the offer versus serve option, mealtime flexibility waivers, and meal pattern waivers. Now, under the summer food service programs and the seamless summer option, they also had a non-congregate feeding waivers, parent and guardian pickup waiver, offer versus serve, mealtime flexibility waivers, meal pattern waivers. But in addition to the waivers that were matching up with the National School Lunch, School Breakfast Program, they also had the area eligibility waivers, which was very helpful to school districts if they wanted to serve. So they were then able to serve all kids for free, which was very nice. On-site off-site monitoring waiver and monitoring waivers for the pre-approval and the first week reviews. So I wanted to go into a couple of these and highlight some of the differences. First off, I wanted to highlight the offer versus serve waivers. So under the National School Lunch, School Breakfast Program, they are required to, National School Lunch Program does require that at the high school level, 9th through 12th grade, they're required to actually implement offer versus serve. So what that waiver did was to allow districts to not have that option because it was very difficult to achieve grab and go meals with that requirement. So the waiver was to opt out of offer versus serve. Now under summer food, offer versus serve isn't a requirement. So that was to opt in to offer versus serve. So they're the kind of the exact opposites of each other. So under National School Lunch, the offer versus serve waiver was to opt out of that requirement, and the offer versus serve for summer food was to opt in to using offer versus serve. Some of the monitoring waivers. So normally the monitoring is on site. So the off-site monitoring was huge. It meant that folks could designate an individual to the at the sites to be able to complete the review form instead of that the director or person in charge of the program flying or going out to each site. They could designate an individual at the site itself to perform the monitoring for them and then submit the review back to them. The monitoring for the pre-approval and first week waivers, those were to allow for sites to not have to perform the pre-approval and the first week reviews. That was a nice waiver as well. Some additional waivers are under the CACFP programs, which is the at-risk area eligibility. So any of the folks that have operate the at-risk meals programs, they were allowed to utilize the area eligibility, which the at-risk activity requirement was waived. However, that had expired. So you want to keep in mind when you're doing your at-risk meals program that you're offering some type of activity with that meal. And it could even be just some kind of a packet or a homework sheet or a worksheet of some kind. It doesn't have to be an in-person event. Under the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, FFVP, USDA allowed for parent and guardian pickup for FFVP. That was quite helpful. When the waivers first started coming out, USDA didn't have the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program covered, and so it was a little difficult for folks to get their fresh fruit and vegetable, but they caught up and now they have that waiver. And then alternate site locations. So that helped with districts who had other, like maybe early on in the pandemic, they were opening up other locations that are not actually school locations, possibly like a grocery store parking lot where it was a much higher flow of traffic and more convenient for parents to be able to pick up meals. So having those alternate location waivers really helped for, especially under FFVP. Do keep in mind that all waivers must be pre-approved by the state agency, and waivers may not transfer across programs or cross-program years. So that's one of the reasons why early on during the renewal process, you had completed waivers for the National School Lunch Program. But then when folks, when USDA did the extension for the summer feeding program for schools and a lot of districts transitioned back, there was a different set of waivers to complete. And that'll most likely be similar to the true summer feeding program. When summer months approach, there'll be other waiver forms to be completed. There are 3 options for schools to take currently. Obviously, you can follow the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. There is a seamless summer option, and there's the Summer Food Service Program. At this time, all of our programs that are all of our schools, except for one, has moved to the Summer Feeding Program. And but all of our RCCIs remain on NSLP. So under the Seamless Summer program, or excuse me, yes, Seamless Summer option, you have the site eligibility, which is the same as the Summer Feeding Program. The School Food Authorities offer summer meals to enrolled students or community. And sponsors, let's see, May sponsors school and non-school sites, and your sponsor could be a school or a non-school site. They must follow the National School Lunch Meal Patterns, regulations, and monitoring requirements. So do keep that in mind. If you did decide to go to a seamless summer option, it would be following the National School Lunch Meal Pattern and requirements for monitoring and regulations. But there is the meal pattern waivers, so you can have a little bit of flexibility if needed. Reimbursement rates are the same as the National School Lunch and School Breakfast rates, free rates. Under the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, for schools serving meals only to children that are enrolled, so it's not open to the community, must follow the National School Lunch and School Breakfast Meal Patterns, regulations, and monitoring requirements, unless we have an approved waiver, and receive reimbursements at the current and National School Lunch and School Breakfast rates. The Summer Food Service Program, they followed all summer food meal patterns, the monitoring requirements and regulations. The Summer Food Program's annual training and application is required. So when summer months do approach, there will be a summer food training at that point. Sponsors receive the summer food meal reimbursement rates, which are a little bit higher than the National School Lunch rates. So that was kind of incentive why a lot of districts moved over to the summer food program as well, in addition to a little bit of the meal pattern being a little more flexible as well. All meals served must meet the prescribed meal pattern requirements depending on which type of feeding program you're under. So under the National School Lunch, following all the National School Lunch meal pattern requirements, unless you have an approved waiver. SSO would be the same as the National School Lunch. And summer food would be following the summer food meal pattern requirements, which do differ a little bit from the National School Lunch program. The option to follow the National School Lunch Meal Pattern requirements does require a state's approval. So do keep that in mind. Here's a quick image of the summer food meal pattern. As you can see, breakfast is your milk, a juice or fruit or a vegetable, and grains and breads. Under the snack, you have your milk, your juice, your fruit or a vegetable, meat alternates, breads, grains, and your lunch or supper meal patterns follows essentially the National School Lunch, except it does not have the vegetable subgroup requirements. And so that does make things a little easier to manage, as well as they don't have the sodium and calorie requirements ranges and things, and trans fats. Do keep in mind daily meal counts must be taken at the point of service or some type of meal counting process. If you're doing summer food and you're doing area eligibility, or if you're a CEP school under NSLP, you can do like a tally sheet, but you want to make sure that there is a process to make sure duplicate meals aren't being counted. For adult meals, what we would call program adults, they may be served a free meal to those adults working directly with the meal service at the site. These meals still, though, are not allowed to be claimed, but they are considered an allowable expense under the meal service program. But non-program adults that do not work directly with the meal service program, such as parents or principals or teachers, they either must pay the full cost of the meal, or if the district has decided to allow for meals for those non-program adults. There must be some kind of subsidy into the food service program, a transaction showing that they're covering those meals for those adults. There is a great handout for serving adults, what you need to know on the USDA's website. And oops. And as far as training goes, administrative staff training should cover some of the basic program information, how the program will operate within the framework of summer foods or NSLP, USDA's EED civil rights training or Department of Education's civil rights training, which we have on our e-learning website. And then specific duties of monitorings. Here are some contacts for the different folks that administer the different programs throughout our department. Myself, I cover right now the schools and the disaster feeding summer food program. USDA Foods and Fresh Fruit and Vegetable is Sue Lampert. Child and Adult Care is Anne-Marie Martin. The summer feeding program is Rhonda Biles. The CNP web person and support for CACFP is Jennifer Chirin. CNP web and support for schools is Debbie Soto. And anything else goes to Joe. At this time, though, I would like to invite Joe to jump on the line and talk about a new emergency, is it emergency funding? I can't recall the name of the policy we just received yesterday, late in the afternoon.
Thank you for, I just wanted a moment. I know in my presentation yesterday, I mentioned that the stimulus legislation that was signed last month, much of it had a 30-day, we'll get you guidance. And as soon as I got home from the office yesterday, sure enough, it was sitting in my inbox. So I'm still kind of reading it and processing it. But I did want to share what I know with you all. So this is the emergency funding for schools and childcare. And what it does, it helps try to backfill some of the loss that some of you had last spring. So the time period is March through May of 20. I'm lost in time, sorry, to think what year last year was. And it looks like the formula we would be using is to take, like for the month of April, what you received in April of 19 versus what you received in April of 20. And then that balance is multiplied by 0.55. So it doesn't quite make you whole. But for those who had a very significant drop in meals served, it should be able to provide some assistance. I look like I'm frozen on mine. I don't know if anyone else can. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so the time frame that was given in the guidance, we have 1 month to apply for this. Of course we will. Of course we will. And it looks like the funds don't start dispersing till June, which is quite some time. The school side looks very straightforward. The childcare side is going to be a little more complex, but I don't really see an issue. It looks like we have between June and August, that all of the funds should be out. If you have any questions, you may ask them, but I'm still reading all of the information. But I did want you to let you know it came, and that's how the formulas are looking. And so, yourself, you can take a look at in the CNP web, you'll see what your claims were for April last year and April this year. So you can kind of propose or, do your own estimates on what to anticipate. Please do note, it would not include the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program grant. That is separate. We're really just looking at the meal program, so NSLP and summer food. For those of you who also do CACFP, that one kind of stands alone. So you would also be looking to be receiving some funding for that as well, though. So I think it's great. That looks like there's a plan. It looks like something that'll be very achievable, and we'll give you more information as you get it. Also, as I was speaking, I did get an email from my friend at DEC because I wasn't sure about the eggs. I will answer your question in a second, Amy. There is a path if you want to do locally sourced eggs, not milk. Milk has to be pasteurized, but eggs do not. And Lorinda from DEC sent me some guidance on that. So Susan Green, I know that you had asked, I will forward this to you. And Beth, and if anyone else is interested, just let me know and I can forward that to you too. But there is a process in which you can, either purchase locally or get donations. There's standards and whatnot. Okay, and then I saw that Amy had a question. Can you get to the chat, Beth? I'm on a little screen right now.
On Amy's question, it was only March through May, question mark.
It says March through June, but I think that's with the assumption of schools that operate in June. Now, I know that a really great question is that Fairbanks normally has June summer school. I don't know that that's included because as I read the guidance, normal standard SFSP is not included in this emergency funding. I don't know for a school who normally has credit recovery, summer school type programs, if that's included or not. We're in the process right now of kind of reading it and coming up with our questions. My assumption on my first read though is it's meant for the school year, not summer programming.
Sandy Dawes asked, will the state be applying for all districts?
Yes.
Is there any more questions?
That was all the questions that I had seen offhand.
Thanks for giving me a moment, Beth.
No problem. Thank you. And that's all I had for the schools update. We're ahead of schedule.
We are. We're just blowing through these
Zooming right through.
Well, it's time for another door prize. And this one is a goodie bag from the National Food Group. It's got a freezer bag for your lunches, a bento box. What else? A grab and go, like lunch, reusable little bag for lunches, and a bunch of their products. That they have applesauce, they have a lot of breakfast bars and stuff. So, yeah, I think there might be a gift certificate, Amazon card in there too, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's see. Oh, we don't have 92 people. So that's not going to work. 55. James Ivanov. Yay! So I will send the people at National Foods your mailing address and they'll get that off to you, okay?
Wow, I never win anything.
Well, today's your lucky day.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I think that concludes today. Is MGM on? Does she want to say any closing thoughts?
Of course,
All right.
I just love Alaska School Nutrition. And in all my 30 years of speaking from Alabama to Alaska to New York to Florida, I have never had the opportunity to hear about how we're going to cut down a moose. Just take it off the road and bring it right into the school. I think this is a great idea. So I'm going to encourage the rest of the nation, the lower 48th, to get going on this because this is something that we need to do. I love it. But for you that do not know me, I'm Maureen G. Mulvaney, MGM. I'm speaking tomorrow to end your conference. And please, God, I'm hoping that you're way ahead like you are today because I need the time because I'm going to got a lot to say. We're going to go lickety split. So buckle up, everybody. Buckle up. Be ready. Because if you've never heard me speak, buckle up. I'm going to invite you to wear red tomorrow. I'll tell you why tomorrow. If you don't have any red, now, Gavin, I know you must have a red tie because Lord knows you've been looking dapper every single day. So let's get yourself some red tie, red suspenders, something, red handkerchief or something. And even if you don't have it, bring something red and you can swing it around, because when you're there and we've got you muted, you can't make the noise like I want you to make. So you can at least swing your something around so we know you're there and happy and excited. And tomorrow I will not be talking about moose. I will not be gutting and gilling your fish. That is not something I'm going to be talking about. So just in case you were wondering, that's not on my agenda. But I will be talking about, we've all had some challenges this year. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm happy. You're going to talk about how to thrive instead of just surviving. You're going to get some great ideas on what you can do and a different way to look at where we are, what we're doing, and what we can look forward in 2020, because I'm ready to roll. I'm done. I'm done with us being down. I'm done with us feeling like we've been the low man on the totem pole. And when is this going to ever end? Come on, let's just get with the program. We're going to take it on and let's just move it forward. And we're going to show that we can thrive during this whole time and really have a good time while we're doing it. So that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow afternoon. So tomorrow, if we're ahead of schedule, yippee, I'll be so excited. I will take over and be ready to talk. So thank you for letting me come today. And Lisa, you with your moose, I'm so excited. Sandy, with your moose down there. I mean, these are some exciting ideas. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And especially the transportation. Who doesn't love a good biplane story?
That's right.
Here you go. So thanks. See you tomorrow. Wear your
Right. Yes. Thank you, MGM. Well, Gavin's speaking tomorrow, so we'll have to put him on a leash because he likes to talk.
Oh, yeah. No wonder he bought a new tie. Yeah, that wasn't for you, MGM. He bought a new tie because he's getting the camera.
He's getting the camera on him. Oh, all right. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending. This has been a really, really good session. Got some really good things out of it today. So just be back tomorrow at 1. And like MGM said, wear red. If you've got your kitchen pots and pans to clean, you can do that if you're home or in your kitchen.